Hey, this is Austin Nakatsuka, and today I'll be presenting what is basically my first black cataract that I've ever encountered. And this was sort of a disaster case, but things ended up in the end kind of okay, and we'll see how it goes. So, this is an interesting patient. She had basically almost LP to maybe almost NLP vision. We weren't even quite sure. And she had this really big corneal scar over this eye and had been seeing poorly for a very long time. And basically, she said, hey, before sort of things happened many years ago, I felt like I could see a little bit better. Now, she had a history of Coats disease, and it had really sort of ruined her retina before. So she knew that she didn't have that much chance at seeing, but she said, I don't know, I'd like to give it a try. And so actually the first surgery I had done was to remove this band keratopathy, the calcium layer on top of her cornea to make her a little more comfortable. And as you can see, I removed it, but there's still a big scar there. But it was enough so that I actually had a view. So I said, okay, we can try this out. And she had a tiny pupil. It was all sneaked down, as you can see. And so I had to actually open it up and peel it open, as you could see there, and then put some iris hooks there to even see the cataract. And I had done a B-scan ultrasound beforehand, knowing that there wasn't a retinal detachment back there, although I didn't know what condition the retina was in. And so I get in there and I see this cataract and I put trypan blue to stain so that I could see it a little bit better. And I do some form of a rhexis. I'm actually able to make a pretty round rhexis there, and I'm hydrodissecting and I'm looking at this cataract and it looks super dense. And so I said, well, let me get into it and see. So I start sculpting away, sculpting away. And by the way, I'm pretty glad that the iris opened up as well as it did, because it was really sort of scarred down. So as you saw earlier, I actually used the scissors to kind of cut it open and make some relaxing incisions. But anyway, I start sculpting away and I start finding, wow, this thing is really, really hard. I can't really even break it open. I can't even crack it. I'm trying all these maneuvers to chop it open. And not only while I'm doing that, everything's kind of really shaky and moving around in there. So obviously this thing has some really loose zonules too. You could see that right there. Just kind of move things around and the whole thing shakes. So I try again, trying a couple of times there, doing anything I can to kind of crack that thing open. Putting viscoelastic multiple times to protect the cornea because, in this case here, maybe we're not going for vision. We don't know. But the worst thing would be that I destroy her cornea really badly and then she needs a cornea transplant, although that would help the scar there, so that is one thing. So I could do a cornea transplant for that. So I'm trying to avoid doing cornea transplant. I do cornea transplants as well. But I realize this thing is a big black cataract and I cannot crack it at all. So I say, you know what, I'm going to enlarge this wound, which I just did with a keratome there, and I'm going to try and actually extracapsular remove this. So I'm using a lens loop there to try to get that out. And I don't do a whole lot of extracapsular cataract surgeries to remove lenses, um, but this is one of the few that I've had to do it for because it's a true black cataract. And anyway, so I'm trying to get it out and I'm having all these problems basically because the lens is so big and the capsule is very loose and there, so I have to prolapse it into the anterior chamber. Got to enlarge the wound large enough to make sure I can fit. Yeah, becoming a disaster. I actually was trying to use the AC maintainer, if you saw earlier. That didn't quite work. And so I'm moving around. And what I'm trying to do is prevent this thing from falling back because it's about to fall back into the retina. And so I keep trying to bring it up. And finally, I'm able to get it out, thankfully. And as you can see, the eye kind of collapses there, and that's not good. So I put viscoelastic quickly to kind of reinflate the eye and make it look like a normal eye. I'm doing a little vitrectomy with scissors there at the wound site to try to avoid vitreous coming through the wound there. But I would say it's a great thing that I was able to get that cataract out. It could have very easily fallen to the back of the eye, and that would have been very hard for the retina doctors to get out of there. And it basically would need to have been extracapsular removed. But anyway, so I got it out and we have a view there, and I decided not to put a lens because we don't know what her vision potential is and there's no capsular support. Although I could do a sclerofixated lens, but I can always do that later. And so I'm just cleaning up the wound and closing it up with the multiple X sutures there, as you can see, to make sure that it's closed. So right now my priority is to clean up and close the wound, make sure it doesn't leak, and get out of Dodge, basically, get out of there, because I did not expect to find that big black cataract in there. and this case took way longer than I thought it would, and a lot more maneuvers than I thought it would. But closed everything up, and it's looking okay. The iris is better. I mean, there's actually a view there now. It used to be all closed down. There's actually a pupil, and there I put some triescence there, which serves both to see vitreous and to reduce inflammation. And that's the end of the case.